Is that? So we'll call the Common Council meeting for Tuesday, June 11th to order and call the roll.
Alderman Strelchek,
Here.
Alderman Talaco, Alderman Meyer, Alderman Hancher,
Here.
Alderman Bach,
Here.
Alderman Parrish is absent, Alderman Bratt,
You.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Here.
and Mayor Nurbin.
Here, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance now. First item is personal appearances and public comment. Citizens wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time. If you desire to be heard on agenda items, you may be heard when that item is considered on the agenda. Please speak into the microphone at the podium. Time limit is 5 minutes. Is there anyone here tonight who wishes to speak on any item not on the agenda? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to public officials' reports. I've got nothing to add right now. A few notes from Administrator Jones, perhaps?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just a few quick updates here this evening before we roll into the meat of our agenda for this evening. As most, all members of the council and the city organization and hopefully the community know, last week the Mequon Road interchange resulted in the closure of Mequon Road going east and west underneath the interchange. That closure is expected to remain in place through about mid-August, while the southbound lanes remain open for exiting and entrance into I-43. We expect additional closures later into the year of Mequon Road, but we have not yet received any information or details from WSDOT. We'll be sure to share that information as it becomes available, so that motorists and members of the community are so informed. We also had a note in last week's bulletin about our August council meeting. Due to the partisan primary on Tuesday, August 13th, which would be the date of our monthly council meeting, we are moving our monthly council meeting in August to Wednesday, August 14th. So all of the packets and the agenda materials will reflect a Wednesday meeting for August. And then lastly, next week, the city is hosting a community blood drive. As many of us know through the years, summertime is an especially difficult time for blood donations, and supplies tend to run low. The drive will be held here in City Hall in Nurnberg Hall, where we're having our meeting here tonight, on Friday, June 21st from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Anyone interested in donating can visit Versity, VERSITI.org to sign up for a donation time slot. That is my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda, which consists of 16 sets of various meeting minutes and reports from boards and commissions. We can vote on them individually or as a group. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on any item? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? And the consent agenda is approved. We have just one ordinance tonight, Ordinance 2024-1662, an ordinance repealing and recreating Article 9 within Chapter 58 of the, or Article 11. It's 11, yeah. Rusty on my Roman numerals. Article 11. On Chapter 58 of the Mequon Municipal Code as it relates to floodplain zoning. This was recommended by the Planning Commission on March 18th, 2024. First reading at Common Council on April 9th, 2024. Recommended by Public Welfare in May 14th of 2024. And the public hearing of the Common Council on May 14th, 2024. And was tabled also on the 14th here tonight. I guess to get going, we need a motion to remove it from the table.
Motion to remove from the table.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of removing it from the table, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is now on the table. Jack's here to lead us through any discussion that may be required. We've talked about it quite a bit. I'll just say it's been an informative process, maybe informative about just how messed up the process is to generate these maps. And we've noticed a few things along the way where we've caught what appear to be errors from DNR and FEMA, and I'm currently working through many elected officials to try and get them to self-correct. That's going to take some time for that process to play out. Obviously, they're not too eager to just jump in and fix it, and even if they did, it would probably take months to redo the work, even if they were willing to start tomorrow. But I'm not giving up. In fact, the more they dig in, the more invigorated I am, because it's kind of become fun fighting them now. And it deserves to be corrected. The biggest error we've noticed is staff, many people know this number, but staff got them to admit the flow rate they use to model the floodplain is more than 2 times what's ever been measured at the flow monitoring station at the location they claim that flow rate exists at. Yet they remain unmotivated to correct it. So I just wanted to get that out there on public record. It may come out in increasingly more noticeable modes of communication going forward, depending on how willing they are to fix it. Any more to add, Jack?
I would just say we had our open house on May 29th. It was very well attended. I think 5 of you were at one of the presentations. We averaged probably, I'd say, about 70 people per presentation, and then throughout the day, I bet we've had 200 to 300 people show up in and out. And then since then, I've scheduled one-on-one meetings with individuals that wanted to have more information about their individual property. I've done about 50 of those and additional phone calls. So I think we probably, at least I've had communications with roughly about 500 people, I'd say, within this area. So I think we've done as best we could at getting the word out to everybody. And most people were understanding of what the process is and who's really to blame for this issue. And just going and meeting with everyone, I think there's been a couple themes that we kind of already knew about where the biggest issues are. Again, by River Barn Park is a big concern. The flow rate itself, the change in elevation of the floodplain, basically from Highland down to Thiensville was roughly 1.5 feet. And I've met with numerous individuals. I could give you some individual stories that you would just kind of shake your head at how this is impacting some of our residents. And the other thing we found out was that the new maps are under a different datum than our old maps. A vertical datum was switched, so that actually makes it a little worse, 0.2 worse. That was kind of unknown to everyone. Even when I spoke with the DNR rep, they didn't really give me that information at first. It was one of the state modeling engineers that told me that there's a conversion factor that needs to be applied to the map, so it's 0.2 worse than actually what it is. So. But other than that, I can give you more information if you want, or if you want to discuss any other parts of the ordinance, please let me know.
Yeah, so we're here tonight after tabling last month so we could have the public information meeting. We're still we've got a legislative gun door ahead from FEMA. If we don't get them these for review, then it's got to all be adopted by the end of July, but we need to get it into their review process by the end of June so that it can happen by the end of July. Otherwise, people that are affected lose the ability to participate in the FEMA flood insurance program. So we're being forced to vote for something we may not like, but we have to do it nonetheless. Otherwise, there's even more grave consequences.
And there's actually an added benefit that I guess I didn't really think of at the time, where the way we drafted the ordinances would go into effect on July 31st. One of the benefits I've seen is there's numerous people that are impacted by this ordinance change that currently are out of the floodplain, and it actually gives them time to actually do some filling or take out permits and things like that, so they don't have to get caught into the whole 50% trap, because there are people that went from not being in the floodplain whatsoever to being in the floodway. And one person was within, the change cost them, it was 1/10 of a foot. So basically an inch and 3/16 is what caused them to be in or out of the floodway. So it's a big dramatic impact. So by not having this go into effect till July 31st, it gives people some opportunity to have some time to do some, take out permits or do some filling that they couldn't do after July 31st. So
that probably bears repeating. If you know anyone that's affected by just a little bit and they can solve their problem with a little fill, come on down to City Hall and we'll be glad to process your fill permit and make sure it's dated before July 31st, and then you're kind of locked in. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I don't think enough people can hear that at this point. Any further comments or questions from the council? Alderman Bach.
Just a thank you. I mean, that was a long day, and thanks for your patience and willingness to meet with everybody. And I mean, you probably here till late at night, and after Alder Tlaco brought all of this up, I mean, it is really a mess, and people are interested, and it does affect a lot of people. So it's good to put the attention there. And I received at least 2 or 3 messages from constituents saying thank you. So I appreciate the good work.
Yeah, it was a long day.
It was a long day, but I think it
It was beneficial.
was less work in the long run.
Yeah, I agree, yes.
Yeah, for sure. Alderman Strelchak.
Yeah, I talked with a constituent today, and, one of the questions that came up is, what's the communication plan moving forward? We're going to have some people that maybe didn't think they were affected, and will figure out that they're affected when they go to do something in the future. So, how do we want them to reach out? Obviously, if it becomes a problem, they'll call us, but then refer them to you, Jack, or is there a, better
Yes, I think
system?
there are probably some people that looked at the maps, and I have the map up on the screen. It's kind of hard to see on that, but the difference between the blue and the red is the new area, and I think there's a lot of people that saw that and said, well, I'm not impacted, but the true way to determine is by your elevation. So some people might have looked at that and maybe are actually in it versus being out. So again, if anybody has any questions about that status, they can always contact me. I can give them the information. Again, I've met with, at least I still have probably 30 to go that signed up at the open house, but I'm willing to continue to meet with everyone regarding, what the status of their property is. And then going forward, I guess continue to stay in tune to the bulletin, and I guess, I don't know, we'll have to decide how we want to communicate in the future. I have a meeting scheduled in a couple weeks with a local engineering firm to see what the scope would be for something for them to review our ordinance or the model to determine whether they find errors, and obviously if that costs a certain amount of money, that'll come back to the council for approval. We don't really have a budget for this item, but we'd have to figure out where to get that money from. So
That'd be great. And then there was some concern that the map didn't show everyone that would be in or out based on elevation. There's somebody that's in the red area, but then there's another property nearby that's at the same elevation that's not in the red area. So just concerned with some inaccuracies of the map as well.
yeah, it's a very difficult thing. In fact, I kind of zoomed in just to kind of give you an example. So this area here, this is again along Grace Avenue, just for example. So this area, this yellow number is actually the change in floodplain height, base flood elevation at this location. So it's about 1 foot 7/10. But as you can see, the red to blue change isn't all that extreme. So, there are people that are kind of skirting that line that could be in, that think they're out just by looking at the map. And I think they won't even probably understand or know their situation until at one point their insurance company or their mortgage company says, hey, we've seen the new maps, it looks like you may be in, you might need to prove to us that you're out. And I've seen this happen in 2007 after the maps were adopted. People were getting calls from their lenders saying, hey, you have new maps in Mequon, you need to hire someone to go out and survey to make sure you're in, or to determine whether you're in or out. We need to know. So that'll probably hit people, I guess, within the next 6 months or so. The other way we'll find out, I guess, is when we rezone. If we decide to rezone these properties to match the FEMA maps, we'll have to individually notify everyone, and that may bring in some more people. But we notified 1,500 people at least along this stretch. So I think we hit a lot of people that may or may not have been in. Even if like some of these houses that were like in this location here, even though the houses weren't in on the map, we still notified them. And I met with numerous people that were in some of these houses that were shown to be out, and I went over to them the elevation data difference between the current and the proposed, and what their elevation of their house is based on our contour data. Now, our contour data is not 100%, but it's fairly accurate, so we can get a good picture, I think, by looking at it, whether they're in or not. But some of these cases came down to, again, 2/10 of a foot, and so that's something a surveyor is going to have to determine.
Fill, baby, fill.
Yeah.
While you can. Any further comments or questions? Alderwoman Tlaco.
First, thank you, Jack. Without your help and being so receptive and listening and researching and being our expert, we would not have figured out this really devastating error that's been going on for the last 20 years. I'm extremely passionate about this. I also want to thank the mayor for sending out the letters and not just getting our state representatives involved, but also our U.S. representatives involved, because this process clearly does not work. And it clearly impacts Mequon, but it impacts the entire United States, this process. So I'm hoping that not only can we solve our problem, but we can also forward it so that the processes throughout this country work a little bit better. Passing this ordinance tonight is pretty tough because living in Mequon, I think the community really respects our natural resource, the river. We want to protect it. We don't want to overbuild it. We don't want to jeopardize it. At the same time, by passing these new maps knowingly wrong, it puts us in a little bit awkward of a position because we're saying yes to kind of outweigh another item instead of having the Wisconsin DNR and FEMA do the right thing by giving us an extension until this could be figured out. So I'm highly disappointed in that. I had talked to Attorney Sajak in regards to kind of separating it, where I would like to make a motion in order to approve the recreation, and we had talked about possibly putting the map as a resolution so that we could have two separate votes on it, as I am extremely in favor of having our ordinances and making sure that we protect our natural resource. However, I cannot in good conscience pass maps knowingly that they are wrong and they should be corrected, and an extension should have been given it to us. And it makes me very disappointed in the Wisconsin city official, like the Wisconsin officials above us that have not respected that and are forcing us to pass something knowingly wrong.
I'll second those concerns. And when questioned on that, they claimed that our time to protest them was years ago when they first published them. Of course, the problem was they didn't publish any of the modeling data that goes along with the maps, so you couldn't possibly have discovered those details.
Well, even still, even if you look at the letter that originally came, it said, please provide us any non-technical information you may have.
That's true. They weren't even asking for feedback.
Yeah, they weren't asking for technical feedback. They wanted to know if you have maybe a new street that was added or a stream name was wrong, but it was mostly non-technical information they were asking for.
Yeah, I may ask the question in a few minutes here if we get a motion in a second, in a way you've never heard me ask it before. So we'll see what happens when we get to that. But let's get all the comments out on the table here, and then hopefully someone will make a motion and we'll do something. Any other questions from anyone or a motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I feel like we've beat this one to death. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'm going to call the question, but I'll call it three ways. There'll be a vote to approve, a vote to approve with protest, and a vote to deny. So we'll call it one at a time, and if you wish to vote for it so we have flood insurance for our citizens, but you have some problem with the way this process went or some of the modeling or the maps, you can choose to approve while noting that you protested, just to put it on the record. So if there's no more discussion, please call the roll in that highly unusual manner.
Alderman Stralchuk,
The first one is to approve, correct?
Approve or approve with say aye or aye with protest, or approve with protest.
Aye with protest.
Alderman Tlaco,
I with extreme protest.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye with a protest.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye with a protest.
Alderman Bach,
Aye with protest.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye with the protest.
and Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye with the protest.
All right, that ordinance is approved despite the fact that we protest it. To the people that are affected, insofar as we couldn't get a perfect outcome, I am sorry, but we are going to keep trying. Now that we've done this thing that is kind of required to ensure people can get insurance, we're going to continue to develop strategies to chip away at it. Jack's going to talk to that consultant. We'll see how much that might cost. I'm going to continue to be a pain to FEMA and DNR through elected officials, or maybe other avenues. We'll see what the future holds. But we'll try to do better by the people that are impacted by these new maps, or even maybe even the old maps, which probably also aren't correct, actually. That flow rate is a huge impact to the flood elevations, and there's no justification at all for not using the correct data. And when it's off by a factor of more than 2, it deserves to be corrected. So stay tuned, and we'll figure out how to get that information out. The city's e-bulletin is probably the best, so if you haven't signed up, please sign up online, or if you can't figure that out, someone at City Hall can walk you through the process. All right, on to resolutions. Resolution 4126, a resolution disallowing the claim of Zachariah Anderson dated May 21st, 2024. This, the recommendation to disallow was approved earlier this evening by Finance and Personnel.
Move to disallow.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of disallowing the claim, please say aye.
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 Any in favor of approving it? And that claim is disallowed. Resolution 4127, a resolution appointing Brenda Arnett to the position of a Director of Finance / City Treasurer. This was also approved earlier this evening by Finance and Personnel.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments, questions? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that item passes. Welcome, Brenda, wherever you are. Resolution 4128, a resolution awarding a design services contract for the city brush site to the Sigma Group of Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the amount of $84,914. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
This evening, Public Works approved of the resolution.
Fantastic. Is there a motion or a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Alderman Stralchek.
I saw the scope of work in the RFP and they asked there, and it looks like there's some, some additional call outs beyond just the design service, but $80,000 for a brush site just for the design of it seemed pretty high. So I guess I had some questions as to how that played in. The additional bid that I looked at was even double that amount from Grafe. So, that clearly was unreasonable, but curious as to why that figure was so high for something that is seemingly simple to somebody that goes to the brush site as
I
it
know
is today.
one of the, Director Lundin will come up and answer that, but I know part of the complication is it's built on a landfill, so there's all sorts of problems designing the things to be able to be load-bearing enough to put on them, but I'm sure Kristen's got more info.
That certainly is a great portion of the design cost, is the determination of what mitigating steps we may otherwise have to take at every level for just repaving the parking lot, let alone the automated gate. There is a good amount of technical work that has to be done. We have to run all the service for the cameras, the power, the brush site card that will be used for the gate and everything. And as you note, of those that we received, this was less than half of the alternative.
Yeah, it's less than we just paid for just an HVAC study for this building,
Yes.
which
deal
really
at half
seemed
the price.
expensive. Alderman Meyer.
There's such a big discrepancy inside of this, almost $100,000 in between the two. Tends one to think that either Groff is overcharging a lot, or just want to make sure that Sigma Group is taking everything into consideration. For
Yes,
that.
we Sigma does a good amount of environmental work, so perhaps part of their cost efficiency is having the expertise to understand what they should expect in this type of project, whereas Grafe may have had more room to cover unanticipated outcomes. As well as one of the leads on the project is a former Department of Public Works director, so we're confident that he understands what is expected of the project with a municipal background that also may have led to some of the efficiencies in scale.
So we've gone from, from having a gate in there and some other amenities to adding a few other things to that list. And I'm not saying that they're not necessary, but do we have, with adding that, do we have any type of rough figure of what this now is costing compared to what we were thinking about in the first place?
So we do not, but we will be before the committee of the whole either late summer, early fall with the results of the initial tasks as it relates to the environmental investigation so that we can make some of those decisions moving forward. So while the design scope includes what we anticipate needing out there, there will be a point of decision, and whether that's based on cost or based on the conclusion of the environmental process with the DNR, there will be the opportunity to make those selections before we go to bid.
Any further questions? Those are good questions, by the way. I've lost track if we have a motion or a second. We do? Okay, good. Okay. Any further questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Talaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
and Alderman Strelchek.
Aye.
And that item is approved, and we'll see it back here once the consultant gets a little farther down the road. I've actually had a lot of people asking about when we're going to get the gate reader in, so it's good to know it's moving forward. Next, we have Resolution 4129, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Mequon and the City of Milwaukee in connection with the provision of law enforcement support services during the 2024 Republican National Convention. There's our recommendation forthcoming from Public Safety.
Yep, it's going to be a busy week for the department. Public Safety Committee unanimously approved Resolution 4129. I move approval tonight.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the council? I'll just add for those that may be watching at home, it's not our whole police department, just the members of the special response team, which is, it's like the SWAT team, but we don't call it the SWAT team in Ozaki County. So we'll still have coverage. The streets of Mequon will remain safe. They'll just make sure that we're not falling short by everyone's vacation probably got canceled, but we'll remain strong here. And we do get reimbursed, so we're not paying for it. The federal government, by way of their $75 million security grant to each convention at each party in Milwaukee and Chicago, that's going to cover the cost. So we'll be safe here, and we'll help out down there and be good citizens of the region and help out. All right. We have to call the question. Yeah, we have to do a roll call vote because it's money. So if there are no more comments or statements, please call the roll.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchek,
Aye.
and Alderman Talaco.
And that item is approved, just in the nick of time, too, with the convention bearing down upon us soon. Resolution 4131, a resolution authorizing staff to file the City of Mequon's Compliance Maintenance Annual Report for calendar year 2023 in accordance with the requirements under Wisconsin Administrative Code NR 208. Recommendation came out of Public or the Sewer Utility District Commission earlier this evening to approve, and is here before us tonight. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Alderman Strelchak.
You said 4131, but the next item is 4130, so just making sure we're on track.
Oh, well, since I did go out of order, we'll take 4131. I had already jumped in that item on my sheet
Got it.
here. Okay, so we're going out of order. It's item F. Hopefully that's not a problem. Do we need to vote to suspend the rules? Okay. We're taking up Resolution 4131 for the CMAR. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, sorry about that. And now we'll take up Resolution 4130. Resolution ratifying replacement of a public sanitary sewer lateral at 11333 North Port Washington Road from Renault of Oak Creek in the amount of $60,000, which was recommended earlier this evening by the Sewer Utility District Commission. Is
Move to
there a
approve.
motion?
So moved.
And a second. Okay. Motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Hatcher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak, Alderman Teleko,
Aye.
and Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
That item is also approved. We're on to specified unfinished business from prior meetings, of which there is none. We have no specified new business, which brings us to a potential closed session item. Acquisition and or use of property at 11015 North Market Street. The Common Council may convene in the closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 18.85 Prin 1 Prin E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and then may reconvene into open session to take such action as it may deem appropriate. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Move to go into closed session.
All in favor, please say so when the roll is called.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Alderman Teleko,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
and Mayor Nerpen.
Aye. I don't anticipate we're going to return into open session, so good evening, everyone.